where they were dismissing provisions in the American Rescue Plan and the Jobs Act and the Families Act as radical socialism. Radical socialism. That's what one of my colleagues said repeatedly on the other side of the aisle. What does that radical socialism look like? The opportunity to extend 2 years of education to the youngest children in America to get them started in kindergarten and the first grade. We know that pays off. They end up graduating from high school, college, and beyond, just getting a good start. How about 2 more years after the 12th grade so that they can go to community colleges at no cost and develop their skills and training? Is that another radical socialist idea? And they want to get people back to work, and so do we. You want to get women back to work? Ask women why they're not going back to work. First, the jobs aren't paying nearly enough to support their families. Secondly, they're worried about their kids. They're afraid what's going to happen to them in the schools when they return there, if the schools are open. And if the schools aren't open and they don't have daycare available, those mothers are staying home for obvious reasons, for the sake of the children. Radical socialist ideas. And then when you take look at the amount of money that the Republicans are willing to spend to move America into the 21st century, investments in training and education, investments in basics like broadband, expanding our electrical grid, the Republicans want to lowball it. They don't want to spend too much money. They don't want to have us come forward at this moment in history of opportunity. The Republican Party of the United States of America has a solid second-place finish strategy for America. That's not what Joe Biden believes. It's not what we believe. We believe this country can succeed if we invest in the people and believe in the people and give businesses an incentive to create jobs and opportunities. And that's what we're there for. The last point I want to make is this. On the Voting Act, the debate's on today. Ted Cruz has only 47 amendments, I understand. And I'm sure they're going to finish it by the end of the day and report a bill to us. But imagine, if you will, that we had the largest turnout in history in a presidential election. Imagine, if you will, that even Republicans were swatting down Donald Trump's big lie because they believe that what we have in the results are accurate and honest across the United States. And then some 20 state legislators controlled by Republicans decide that the answer to that scenario is to reduce the opportunity to vote in the next election. And to be specific about it, reduce the opportunity particularly for those people of color and lower income individuals who will be troubled by the requirement to show up at limited periods of time to vote. If we want America to be a strong democracy, we need more and more people voting. We stand for that premise, the Republicans the opposite.
Senator Murray.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you to Senator Durbin for defining how we make our economy work in this country with the investments that he talked about. Radical socialism, to make sure that you can go to work and your children are safe, that they get a good education, that they can go on and get a college degree. That's called making America work. So thank you for those comments. As we are fighting to make sure that our workers and our families and small businesses rebuild better after this pandemic. That is what we are talking about here as Democrats in the Senate, working with the administration. And we've really got to shore up the foundations. And a big part of that, as well as what we just talked about, is making sure our democracy works for every single American voter. Our democracy depends on people's participation. The essence of that is having every American use their voice. How do they do that? By voting. But what we are seeing right now is in Republican-led legislatures across the country is a coordinated effort to make it harder for Black, Latino, young, and lower-income Americans to make their voices heard at the ballot box. No elected official should be willing to watch that happen regardless of party. So to the same Republican leaders who have said, let the people decide so many times on issues as important as accountability for foreign interference in our elections or a lifetime appointment to the Supreme Court, now you can show you can mean it by working with us to take power away from special interests and billionaires and put it back in the hands of American voters where it belongs. As Leader Schumer has said, the For the People Act is S1 because it is our top priority. And Democrats are going to fight with everything we've got to get it done and safeguard every voter's fundamental right to be heard, to use their voice in this democracy. Thank you.
Thank you,
Senator Stabenow.
Senator Murray and Senator Stabenow.
Well, thank you. It's always wonderful to be here with my colleagues. And let me just say that the people of Michigan and across our country need the For the People Act. They need it to protect their freedom to vote, and they need it to make sure their voices are heard. The people in our country need the American Jobs Plan and the American Families Plan to make sure that they can get ahead and that they can make life better for themselves and their family. That's what these things are all about. Right now in Michigan, Republicans in the legislature are trying to push through a package of bills that would make it much more difficult to vote. And some analysts have actually said it even goes farther than Georgia, believe it or not. Why are they doing this? Because last November, in the middle of a pandemic, more people in Michigan voted than ever before. The Republicans just don't like who they voted for. 5.5 million people in Michigan voted. Michigan counties verified the vote. Our state verified the vote. And we should be celebrating this right now. But because Republicans didn't like the results, they are coming after Michigan voters and voters across the country. That's why we have to pass the For the People Act. The For the People Act will protect our freedom to vote as Americans. And the American Jobs Plan and the American Families Plan is going to help people get ahead. The Jobs Plan alone, I have to tell you from a Michigan perspective, it's very exciting because I see Michigan written on every page of this in terms of rebuilding our state and the middle class. But this is about making things in America. It's about investing in our own manufacturing, rebuilding and bringing back our own supply chains so we're not dependent on other countries, getting electric vehicles on the road, creating good-paying jobs, rebuilding our infrastructure, and putting the U.S. on a path to compete successfully with China for the clean energy future. And there's no question that we can do that if we are focused. I love the fact that President Biden has called this a blue-collar blueprint for America. And it's just what we need to rebuild our middle class. So let's protect people's freedom to vote, and let's unleash the power of our people to build a future that's made in America.
Thank you, Deb. And now we're ready for questions. Yes.
Leader Schumer, in response to the violence in Israel recently, Senator Warren says the Biden administration should make it clear to the Israeli government that the evictions of Palestinian families from East Jerusalem is illegal and must stop immediately. Do you have any view on the subject? And secondly, what's the timeline for getting an ambassador confirmed to Israel through the Senate here?
Well, the second I'll have to get back to you on. I don't have the timeline. On the first, I hope both sides can come together and bring peace. Yes.
Ahead of the White House meeting tomorrow, Republicans have drawn a red line on pay for around the 2017 tax law. Do you believe they need to move off that red line for it to be anything more than just a conversation?
I think the 80% of Americans believe the system ought to be made more progressive and the wealthy ought to pay a much fairer share. The fact that there are so many large corporations and very wealthy individuals who don't pay any taxes at all, we have to do a lot. And we want this overwhelming support in our caucus for a tax system that is far more progressive. Yes, nope.
On unemployment benefits, several Republican states have moved to end enhanced unemployment payments, and several Republican senators, a lot of Republicans here are calling to end those payments. How do you see the future of enhanced unemployment benefits, given that they...
You know, when you study it, there are many, many reasons that there is a shortage of workers. Some of it is because Trump cut off immigration so severely. We have half the number of immigrants that came in. Some of it is because people need child care, as Patty and Dick talked about, and don't have child care. Some of it is because people don't want to go back until they're sure that COVID is beaten. So there are a whole lot of reasons for this, and I think many more people are helped. All the people who can't get jobs for the variety of reasons we've talked about, many more people are helped by this $300 extra, and the overwhelming support in our caucus is to keep it. Yes.
When you talk about the infrastructure bill, we've heard about the D.C. bill, some of these pieces of legislation, you have such a narrow majority. Isn't the problem not so much to filibuster, but trying on the same page, so you can at least get to that point to try to.
Look, we have discussions in our caucus all the time. Our leadership team is broad. It goes from Bernie Sanders to Joe Manchin, and we discuss things all the time. And in the past, we've been able to come together on every major issue, and I'm very hopeful that'll happen again. Yes, next.
Leader Schumer, would you find it suitable to cut off negotiations with Republicans on infrastructure if you can't reach a compromise?
Look, as we said, we prefer to do things in a bipartisan way, and we're going to keep pursuing that in a variety of different ways. And even when it can't be bipartisan, we're going to have a process in committees where they can do amendments and stuff like that. But obviously, we don't want to make the mistake of 2009 and 10, where the negotiations went on forever. Then the Republicans didn't join, and we couldn't get much else done. Yes, last one.
On the debt ceiling, the Treasury Department indicated last week that extraordinary measures might not last that long. So do you plan to raise or suspend it through reconciliation?
You know, I think it's an absolute disgrace that the Republicans are using the debt ceiling, which deals with the financial security, as sort of a political issue. We should get something done in the right way. Thank you, everybody. Okay, two more. Go ahead.
Presbyterian?
President Biden says, President Biden said he wanted to see a policing bill on his desk by May 25th. Is that feasible? Will you commit to putting a bill on the floor? And I also
No.
want to ask about Congressman Clyburn, who said he'd be willing.
Well, I'm not going to comment on Clyburn. I'm going to say Cory Booker is leading the negotiations for our side. He's working with Karen Bass of the Black Caucus. He's working with Senator Durbin, our chair of Judiciary, and they're making good progress.
Is it a bad sign?
Could you accept a package that doesn't?
I'm not gonna try to publicly negotiate. I have a lot of faith in Cory Booker.
Is it a bad
Thank
sign?
you, everybody. Thank you, folks.
Oh, yeah, I suppose I already talked to Durbin quite a bit, so I'm happy. Right, I put the regular speak out.
I haven't seen the caterer. I don't know what's going on. I don't want anyone getting in trouble. When was lunch? But next time, I don't know. I'm John. What's your name?
I'm Tamara.
Cameron, nice to meet you.
I'm
Dave.
Robert. Well, I'll let you guys finish your own thing. And do you know where they plan on putting this, podium?
I don't know 100%, but I do know that I usually see it kind of in the hallway around the corner down there. So I think somebody from like SAA comes by